Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something. I ain't no detective. I'm just a man who's been around the block enough times to know how men think, how men lie, and how men cheat. And I'm going to help you out today. Because if a man says these 6 words to you, it's not what it looks like. He is cheating. The truth always slips out in patterns, not confessions. That's the thing most people miss. See, we keep waiting for the moment someone just breaks down and admits everything, tears running down their face saying, "You caught me, I've been cheating." But real life don't play out like that. Cheaters don't come with a script and a soundtrack. They don't confess because they care. They confess because they got caught so bad, there's no way around it. But long before that moment ever happens, the truth is already leaking through the cracks. Little patterns, little shifts, things that don't add up anymore. It's not about him walking in with lipstick on his collar like in the movies. No, it's subtler. He used to call you every day during lunch. Now he doesn't. He used to tell you where he was going without you asking. Now he gets defensive if you question him. You used to feel secure when he left the house. Now you feel that little tightness in your chest, that uneasiness you can't explain. That's the truth trying to talk to you. It ain't loud. It don't scream. It shows up in quiet ways, through missing details, inconsistent timelines, and new habits that weren't there before. And women, y'all got this built-in radar, this spiritual Wi-Fi. You don't need proof. You feel it. You sense when something is off. You may not have the receipts, but your spirit knows. You start to notice the pattern of his phone always being face down. You realize he laughs at texts that you never see. He's extra careful with that phone now. Where it used to be tossed on the couch, now it's in his pocket, in his hand, or in the bathroom with him. See, that ain't confession. That's a pattern. And that's all you need. Men who cheat don't tell the truth. They live around it. They dance around it. And the dangerous part is they'll gaslight you into thinking you're crazy for noticing the dance. You'll hear things like, "Why are you so insecure?" Or, "You always think the worst of me." That's not love. That's manipulation. And if you're not paying attention to the pattern, you'll start second-guessing your own mind. That's what cheaters depend on. Not your trust, but your doubt. They plant just enough seeds of confusion to make you question yourself. A man can lie with his mouth, but his life will always tell the truth. That's where the patterns live. That's where the real story unfolds. Pay attention to how his schedule changes. Pay attention to the energy he brings home. You used to be his peace. Now he walks in the door already irritated. He used to ask how your day was. Now he's too busy scrolling. The intimacy used to be full of passion. Now it feels like obligation, or worse, avoidance. All of that is part of the pattern. And let's be clear, cheating don't start with the physical. It starts with disconnect. It starts when he starts pulling away emotionally, when he stops investing in the relationship, when he starts turning to somebody else for the attention he used to get from you. That's why the patterns matter so much, because the body always follows where the heart has already gone. Now, here's the hard part. The truth and patterns will never scream louder than the lies you want to believe. You'll want to believe that he's just busy. You want to believe that he's just tired, that he's stressed, that work is getting to him. And he will use all of those things to explain away the distance, the coldness, the change. But deep down, you already know, you've seen the pattern, you've felt the shift, you've watched the slow fade happen right in front of your eye. The reason so many people stay stuck in toxic relationships is because they're waiting on a confession that's never coming. They want to hear him say it. They want that validation, that proof, that moment where he owns up and admits it all. But if you wait on that, you might be waiting forever. And in the meantime, you're dying inside. You're losing your confidence, your glow, your peace, all because you're ignoring the very thing that's been showing you the truth all along, the pattern. See, a faithful man lives a consistent life. You don't have to chase him for answers. You don't have to worry about what he's doing when he's not with you. You feel secure, not suspicious. But when a man is cheating, nothing about him stays the same. Not his habits, not his tone, not his presence. His body might still be in the room, but his soul left a long time ago. You just didn't want to see it. Or maybe you did see it, but you loved him so much you decided to stay blind. That's the part that hurts the most. Not just that he changed, but that you changed too. Trying to keep what no longer wanted to be kept. And that's what patterns do. They show you what he won't tell you. They speak louder than the lies. They teach you how to read between the lines of what he says and what he actually does. A man who used to light up when you walked in now barely notices when you leave the room. A man who used to plan for the future now avoids any conversation longer than dinner. A man who used to protect your heart now plays games with. That's not a coincidence. That's not a bad week and a pattern. And when you see enough of it, it's time to stop hoping for a confession and start believing what you already know. A man's words will tell on him if you're paying attention. That's the truth most people overlook. Everybody's looking for evidence in the actions, in the phone records, in the receipts. But I'm telling you, the words he speaks are often the loudest clues. Because a man can try to hide his behavior, but he can't control every word that slips out of his mouth. The mouth always leaks the truth, especially when the heart ain't clean. See, when a man is loyal, his words and actions are aligned. He says what he means and he backs it up. You never feel confused. You never feel like you have to decode what he's saying. But when a man is cheating, his language starts to change, his phrases get vague, his tone gets defensive, and his answers come with just enough holes to keep you guessing. He starts talking in circles, over-explaining simple things, or giving you answers that don't match the question. That's how lies work. They come wrapped in too much or not enough. Pay attention to how a man talks when you ask him normal questions. Before, he used to answer with ease. You say, "What did you do today?" And he'd give you a full, honest answer. Details, places, people. Now you ask that same question, and suddenly his response is flat, just stuff, nothing really. That's not a man who had a boring day. That's a man who's trying not to say the wrong thing. That's a man who's mentally erasing and editing his day before it comes out his mouth. And then there's that word, chill. If you start hearing that word too often, I was just chilling. You better lean in close. Chilling is what men say when they're trying to smooth over a hole in the timeline. Chilling is vague enough to cover up anything they don't want you to look into. But don't miss this. When a man ain't hiding anything, he don't need to be vague. He can be detailed. He can tell the story straight without stalling. Now, here's another shift in language that tells on a man. When everything becomes your fault, you start asking questions, and instead of answering, he flips the script. Why are you always tripping? Or you're just being insecure. That's not just disrespectful. It's a tactic. It's designed to make you feel bad for even asking. It's meant to shut you down so he doesn't have to open up. When a man does that, it's not because you're crazy. It's because he's guilty and doesn't want to face it. Then you start to hear those little contradictions. One day he says he was at the gym late. The next time you bring it up, he says he was at his boy's house. The stories don't match, but when you catch it, he gets defensive. He says, "You're always looking for something." No, you're not always looking. You're just starting to listen more carefully. And the lies don't hold up under pressure. That's the thing about lying. It takes memory. Telling the truth, that just takes honesty. When a man is cheating, he starts slipping certain words into the conversation that don't belong. You'll hear him say things like, "I just need space," or "I feel like we're not connecting like we used to." Those are not always signs of emotional growth. They're warm-ups for an exit strategy. He's testing your reaction. He's laying the groundwork. That's what cheating men do. They don't just leave suddenly. They talk their way out of the relationship piece by piece, word by word. You also have to watch how his language changes when he talks about the future. A man who's committed says we. A man who's stepping out starts saying I. I'm thinking about moving. I might take that job. I just need to do me for a while. That shift in pronouns isn't just grammar, it's mindset. He's emotionally distancing himself, and his words are showing you before his actions even catch up. You just got to listen close. Another sign is how quickly he changes the subject. You ask him a direct question, and suddenly he's bringing up something you did 3 months ago. That's a diversion. That's an attempt to throw you off. A guilty man knows how to redirect so well, he'll have you apologizing to him while he's out here doing wrong. His words become a maze, and if you're not careful, you'll get lost in it. There's also the overcompensation, the sweet talk out of nowhere. When a man starts flooding you with compliments at random or suddenly becomes overly affectionate when he's usually not, that can be a signal. See, cheating brings guilt, and guilt shows up in random attempts to cover the stench of betrayal. He thinks if he says, "You're the only one for me," enough times, it'll make up for the fact that he's been entertaining someone else. But real love is consistent. Real love don't show up just because he feels guilty. It shows up because he's committed. And let's not forget the silence. Sometimes the most dangerous words are the ones he stopped saying. He used to say, "I love you" regularly. Now you hear it less and less. He used to check in during the day. Now his messages are short, delayed, or dry. Silence can scream just as loud as a lie. When a man starts pulling back on his words, it's because he's already given those words to someone else. The hardest part is, most of the time, you hear it, you just don't want to believe it. You replay his phrases in your head, trying to twist them into something innocent. You defend him to your friends, saying, "He didn't mean it like that." But deep down, your spirit is unsettled because you know what you heard. You felt the shift in tone. You recognized the pause before he answered. You noticed how he hesitated before calling you babe. You caught the way he said, "It's not a big deal," when you brought up something important. All of those words, those small moments, they matter. They're telling the story you don't want to read. A man's mouth can be a blessing or a trap. It can speak life, or it can twist the truth until you don't know what to believe. But if you pay close attention, not just to what he says, but how he says it, when he says it, and what he doesn't say at all, you'll start to see the truth was there the whole time. When a man is cheating, his mouth moves faster than his morals. That's one of the clearest signs you'll ever see. A man who's doing wrong often talks more than a man who's doing right. He runs off at the mouth, trying to stay ahead of the lie, trying to control the story, trying to make sure he paints a picture so perfect you never feel the need to look underneath it. But here's the truth. When a man is being faithful, he's at peace. His words come easy, calm, and true. But when he's cheating, he talks with urgency. He talks with strategy. His mouth is busy because his conscience is guilty. He'll start telling you things you didn't even ask about. He gets ahead of the conversation because he's rehearsed it in his head. He'll come in from being gone all day and start explaining every single step before you even say hello. I was at the store, then I ran into Mark, then we got stuck in traffic and I had to stop for gas. You didn't ask all that. But he gave you all that because in his mind, if he gives you too much, you'll stop digging. But the truth don't need protection like that. The truth is simple. The lie always needs backup. When his morals are lagging behind his actions, his mouth tries to run cleanup. He'll say things like, "You know I love you, right?" Out of the blue, not because he's being romantic, but because he's trying to reestablish trust he knows he's breaking. That's when you've got to look past the charm and listen to the intention. Is he trying to reassure you or himself? Because when a man is loyal, he doesn't need to constantly convince you. You feel secure without him having to sell it to you. He starts using language that sounds responsible on the surface, but is really just a cover-up. "I've been working late. I've been trying to focus on myself. I just need some time to think." All of that sounds noble until you realize it's code for distance. And that distance has a reason. That mouth starts working overtime to make sure you don't start connecting dots. He keeps talking, keeps explaining, keeps promising things that don't happen. Because deep down, he knows his morals are slipping, and the only thing holding the relationship together is the performance he's putting on through his words. Now, when a man is cheating, you'll notice how fast he is to respond to suspicion, but not in a calm way. He overreacts. You'll say, "Who is that texting you?" And instead of just answering, he gets offended. "Why don't you trust me? Are we really doing this again?" He flips it quick because he needs to shut you down before you get too close. That mouth moves faster than the truth. He's not interested in solving the issue. He's interested in avoiding it. You'll also hear a lot of future talk with no follow-through. He'll talk about taking you on a trip, about things he wants to do with you, about plans for the future, but none of it ever happens. It's all talk. That's because in his mind, if he can keep you looking forward, you won't question what's happening now. But a man whose morals are strong doesn't need to sell you dreams. He builds with you in real time. He's present. But a cheating man, he's always somewhere else, either in his mind or with someone else, and his words are just smoke to distract you from the fire he's setting behind your back. Then there's the switching up of stories. When a man's mouth is moving faster than his morals, the story always changes slightly. You ask him about something he said last week, and now it sounds different. "I thought you said you were with Brandon." "Oh, no, I meant I saw Brandon after I left Keisha's cookout, but I didn't really stay." That's the type of thing you hear when he's trying to keep track of the lie. The story starts slipping because they were never true to begin with. He also becomes an expert in turning small mistakes into giant diversions. You'll say, "Why didn't you call me back?" And he'll turn it into, "I can never do anything right in your eyes." That's not conversation. That's deflection. It's not about the missed call. It's about avoiding accountability. That's what happens when the mouth is working overtime to protect a guilty heart. He wants to create noise so you stop listening to the silence behind it, but the silence is where the truth lives. And then there's the fake vulnerability. He starts sharing more, opening up emotionally, but not because he's really trying to connect. It's a tactic. He tells you about his childhood trauma, about how he's never felt love growing up, about how he's scared of commitment. Now, those things might be real, but the timing of when he chooses to say them matters. If it's always when you're pulling away or when you've caught him in something sketchy, then it's not intimacy, it's manipulation. He's using his mouth to pull you back in, to buy more time, to soften your reaction. Meanwhile, the actions stay the same. And finally, pay attention to how many times he says, "Trust me." That phrase gets repeated more by guilty men than innocent ones. When a man is walking right, you just do trust him. But when he's messing up, he keeps saying it like a spell. "Trust me" is not like that. "Trust me, you're the only one I want. Trust me, I would never do that to you." But trust isn't building repetition. It's building consistency. And when the words are flowing but the behavior ain't matching, that's not love, that's cover-up. His mouth keeps running because his morals are lagging behind. His stories sound smooth because he's practiced them. His charm is polished because he's had to use it more than once. He keeps you engaged, distracted, emotionally entangled, because if he can keep you listening, maybe you won't start seeing. He talks about loyalty, but moves in secrecy. He talks about love, but operates in lie. His mouth stays active because his heart is elsewhere. And deep down, he knows that the only thing holding the illusion together is the performance he's delivering every time he opens his mouth.